For a while I was getting a lot of comments asking me to make a video about the Mandela Effect. Personally, I feel it's been kind of played out. This isn't to say I don't believe it and it's not an interesting topic, but there isn't much more that I could add to it, I don't think. That said, I too have certain memories of things that don't seem to exist. I personally remember the Berenstain Bears, not the Berenstain Bears. Most skeptics are more than happy to chalk it up to false memories or swamp gas or whatever. I actually believe that there might be something more to it. A Baltimore man named Jason, speaking to Jimmy Church in March of 2017, claims he had a weird experience involving the Mandela Effect and the Sinbad movie Shazam, which, of course, doesn't exist. For those not in the know, it is said that in the 90s, comedian and actor David Atkins, better known as Sinbad, had appeared in a kids' movie called Shazam, in which he played a genie. This movie, however, does not exist. Sinbad himself has acknowledged that he never appeared as a genie in a movie called Shazam. In 1996, Shaquille O'Neal appeared as a genie in a movie titled Kazam, which was 2 years after Sinbad hosted a screening of Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger on TNT, dressed as a genie, and some believe that's where the memories got mixed up, and somehow Shazam was imagined into reality. There is no movie, never was. That said, there are many, many people who have vivid memories of this film, including specific scenes. Speaking to Jimmy Church, Jason found it incredibly bizarre, and he believes that it did exist and that he momentarily might have had proof of its existence. There was a movie that came out in the 90s. It was starring Sinbad, the comedian, but apparently the movie never really existed. And this has really bothered me because me and my wife and a whole bunch of other people remember this movie, but it never actually existed. So I guess it's maybe more obscure than some of the other Mandela effects. But the interesting story I have about that, I was talking to my neighbor. Her name is Mary, in her 70s. She remembers it as well, and she meticulously recorded things and cataloged them, and she has a copy of it on cassette, but apparently it never existed. This is where it gets sticky. She has Kazam and Shazam written down in a catalog where she would write down the numbers of tapes that she recorded her shows on. She has both of them listed, and it was tape number 138. And she had it recorded, and she remembered watching it. He was a genie. He drove a taxi. Purple shoes. She remembers it. She dug out all of her old cassettes, and she had tape number 138 in her hand. She came upstairs to check the catalog to make sure it was the right one, came back downstairs, and the tape was gone. She has torn her house apart trying to find it, and the tape she had in her hand, the evidence that this movie actually existed, has now disappeared. In his book Dimensions, a casebook of alien contact, Jack Follett suggested a link between fairy sightings in history and the more modern alien abduction phenomenon. He pointed out numerous instances in which items proving an encounter mysteriously disappeared in the days following the encounter. In my video, The Nightgown, I also discussed how an item of clothing, proof that the two witnesses' experience was real, had somehow disappeared, never to be seen again. Sometimes I have to wonder if reality is changing around us, and the architects of said changes are in a constant scramble to hide the proof of their activities.